Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Teacher Side Gig. Before we jump into the interview today, I'm going to explain a couple things. I'm going to explain my why. Why did I start this? Because I didn't do that in the first couple episodes. And then I'm going to explain where we can be connected, where we can connect with each other. So, first, my why. I've always thought about doing this ever since I started my own business and was successful with it. I always thought that, I can think back to my 30 years ago when I started teaching, no one had a side gig, no one had a side hustle. And now it seems like everyone has one. And with this pandemic and with all the things going on, I thought this was the perfect time for me to talk to people, to show people that there's more than one way. I just read an article that somewhere that like 300, 400,000 teachers might lose their jobs in the fall. So I thought this would be a great way to give back to the teaching community and just kind of show them that there's options out there to make some money. Hopefully you can do it with something you love. So that's my why I hadn't done this before this time. And where can we get connected? Well, there's a couple places. The best place is to go to www.teachersidegig.com. On there's a couple places. You can link there to our Facebook group. You can also contact me. And the reason I'm jumping on here and kind of talking to you right now is if you have an interesting side gig, if you have something to share, if you have something to give to the community, I would love to hear from you. So go over to that contact form, fill it out. Can't guarantee anything. I know I have a lot of people in the queue right now, but if you're interested and would love to be on the podcast and share some of your wisdom with other teacher side giggers. That's a mouthful, isn't it? I'm not sure I'll put that on a t-shirt, but if you're willing to do that or want to do that, we would love to have you. So why don't you go over and check that out, and let's head off to the podcast. All right, welcome to Teacher Side Gig. So Joe, I'm not going to tell you which episode you're going to be, but you're going to be in the top 10. So how does that sit?
I am honored to be in the top 10.
I mean, I can't even tell you for Coach Unplugged where I'm at like 700 episode who's in my top 10. So Joe Frontier, gosh, how long have we known each other, Joe?
Well, I've been at Memorial for 20 years, so I've known you for 20 years.
20 years. Wow. We both had more hair then.
Yes, I had a brown beard instead of a white beard.
So Joe, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. I've already kind of done that, but yep. I'm going to have you introduce yourself. I'm going to have you tell people about kind of your teaching career, because I know a little bit about, the lineage in your family. And then we'll do that first, because I always like to set the background, because it's Teacher Side Gig. I'd like to set the background first, and then we'll go talk about side gigs and all that kind of stuff. And people are always interested in what people teach and how they got into it and all that kind of stuff. So it's all yours.
Well, hey, here we go. I have been at Madison Memorial High School for 20 years. I teach art. I'm the department chair of the art department, which I assume because of one of my very esteemed colleagues retired, and so someone had to do it. I hope I'm up for the task, but I teach photography and video. I have taught ceramics, drawing, graphic design along the way. I spent 1 year at an elementary school before I got the job at Memorial High School. And the first year I was at Memorial, I was part-time at that elementary school and at the high school.
Were you ever a sub?
What's that?
Were you ever a sub?
I was a sub. Kind of. I subbed my first year out of college for my practicum teacher like 3 or 4 times. Like she knew she was going to be gone, and she
Okay.
just called me, and I
Because the
just
only reason
listened.
I know that is not because I'm stalking you, because I was making sure my license was good. So I remember you and I having the conversation about the
Yeah.
lifetime license. So I go,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
I'll look up Joe too to make sure his is okay. And you had
Sure.
substitute in there. That's it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That was my first. That was my first. So what I did, I had this kind of very high fluting idea of education, and I thought that like cinder block walls wasn't for me. So even though I went to school and got my degree in teaching art education, K-12, um, I always kind of had this experiential education kind of thing in the back of my head. And so I took a job that basically during my college years took kids on like backpacking and mountain biking trips in the summer,
Oh, that's
which
cool.
was fantastic. So like Moab, Utah, and Rocky Mountain National Park and things like that, which was kind of in my background. I did some of that when I was in high school, and then I was a playground leader when I was in my college summers were playground leading back in Racine, Wisconsin. So I was always kind of
Those are
working
good
with
gigs
kids.
though. If you can,
Oh yeah, I was
yeah.
basically a professional kickball and pickup basketball player, and then I did art projects with kids. You know, it's like it was a
But
great summer
but
job
if
for a college
if
kid.
you had not liked that, you wouldn't have become a teacher. So
If I had not liked that, I would definitely have gone a different route. I probably would be a graphic designer or something like that.
right. So that's what I
Um,
tell people. I tell people you got to dive in to see before you start teaching. You got to dive in to see if you like it. Um,
I agree 100%. You know, if I were a young college kid considering going into education, you know, I'm sure there are better paying jobs in the summer,
right.
but finding something that you could work with kids in a sports camp setting, in a summer school, day camp, overnight camp,
It's a,
and
it's that
any of those
immersion. It's
things.
the immersion theory. It's like I
Yes.
tell people, and I've told Drew and Emma this. I said before you get married, and I'll pay. I said I will pay for the hotels. You're going to take your fiance on a across the country car trip for 2 weeks. Because Maya and I did that. And my brother did that to Alaska. If you're still talking and in love after that 2 weeks, you got it. You're good. You,
That is a perfect analogy. Yeah, I
because
mean, I think you have
you're
to find out.
contained. Yeah, you got to
I mean,
find out.
if you go work a real retail job, and your first, you know, first day working with kids is practicum and watching a master teacher teach, and you think, oh, so this is what you do? You just stand up in front of the room, and you don't really understand, you know, how to set up an environment for success and things like that. You know, I always feel bad for my like practicum and student teachers. You know, the current model for high school art practicum and student teachers in the UW Madison system is they do a 1 semester um, student teaching experience, but they split it up. So half of it is elementary, and then half of it is secondary.
Oh,
And for whatever reason, they always do the elementary third quarter, and then they always do secondary fourth quarter. Well, you walk into my classroom the first day of fourth quarter, and you know
first of
all
all,
of
some
the
of them are seniors. Yeah.
yeah, I mean all of the classroom norming of like, you know, creating an environment. You know, I I've I sent a kid to the office like 4 years ago, and I the kid, he was just, you know, wasn't doing what I was asking, and I just said, hey, I'd like you to leave my classroom. I'd like you to go down to the office, and I'll see you tomorrow. And he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I'm serious. I asked you 3 times. So anyway, kid leaves. My phone rings, and it's the principal in the office. Like, did you mean to send this kid down? You never send anybody down
Yeah.
there. You know, and so this idea of like, you know, setting up an environment. So for a college kid to just get dropped into that setting and not know what happened the first 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to kind of set that environment up, they think, oh, it's just, you know, no, there's no discipline problems in this classroom.
Right.
But there's plenty of things that you need to do to kind of set those circumstances up. And there's always going to be outliers. I'm not a perfect teacher, and nor are my kids perfect. But anyway, I think you learn a lot of those things,
Over time.
when you're getting paid minimum wage and you're working with kids. And yeah, it's not a great paying job, and I'm sure there's ways to make more money as a college kid. But I thought those were really formative experiences and made me
Is there
engaged.
anything from that that helped you in your, well, obviously helped you in your teaching, but helped you in your, like, the other side gigs, or did you do any art as a side gig or anything like that?
I mean, I have done art as a side gig, but never kind of all in. I've always tried to, personally, like, art has always kind of been a hobby for me, not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to make things and sell them regularly.
Okay.
I've shot a few weddings, photographically speaking, not professionally, but they were kind of more low key weddings, and they
Right.
knew I was a photography teacher slash photographer on the side. And so, sure. And I, take all
Right.
the photographs that are necessary that you set up, and I take a few photographs at the, at a reception, but nothing professionally. Most of my side gig, and we can get into that deeper, but
Well, before
is
we dive
sport
into that,
oriented.
so before we dive into that, though, so creative, very creative. He's very creative, very gifted. So that, what I'm saying is, being a wedding photographer, there are creative wedding photographers, but there's
Oh
a
yeah.
script. There tends to
Yeah.
be a script that you got to get this picture, you got to get
Yeah, I think it's
modern.
like it's almost more organizational. Once you have the baseline
Yeah.
photographic knowledge of, like,
Right.
this is what I need to do. Oh, it's poorly lit room, and I'm not going to cut the bride off at like her ankles or her knees, or
Right.
you understand composition. It's pretty formulaic. So, you almost make a checklist and, like, hey, here are the shots that they want. You talk about it beforehand, and you
Right.
freelance a couple because, oh, I didn't realize we're going to be in this setting.
Right.
Or, oh, the sun's great right now. It's 5 o'clock and the sun's setting,
Yeah.
in late October, November. Let's go outside and, blah, blah, blah.
But
So, you do some of that creative part on the fly. But no, it's teacher skills. You understand the timing of things, and you understand how to stay organized, and you can utilize those
well, I
skills
think you're,
for
that's
both
why I wanted
success.
you on early, because I think you're actually more perfect for a side gig than I tend to be. More concrete because I'm a math teacher. I think running a business, and I've learned this over the last 8 years, is running a business, you have to be creative and you have to zig and zag, because you never know that there's going to be a world pandemic that comes down. But I mean, things happen. And I think that's where an art, that's why I was saying for you, I think your creativity has allowed you to, first of all, juggle 83 things, which I'm pretty good at juggling a lot of things too. But I think your ability to do that is a superpower. I don't know. For people listening, I think it is.
I think running a business, the creative part of it is, there isn't a class schedule, first hour, second hour, third hour, fifth hour, sixth hour, whatever you have, lunch is in there. It's, there's 1,000 balls in the air at all times, depending on the size and scope of what you're trying to do. And it's creatively trying to decide, what am I going to prioritize? And then how am I going to use kind of your magic skills to kind of pull them off in the little bit of time that you can devote to this other thing that you hold near and dear or important, whether it's just for monetary reasons, or it's embellishing kind of you as a person, or completing something that maybe school doesn't give to you, as a teacher. And I think,
I think you hit
some
something
of it
that,
is some of it is organizational, because you have so little time
right.
outside of your teaching responsibilities.
Yes.
And then I think you're right, a lot of it is maybe don't feel creative, with their side gig. Maybe it's just like passion. You can fill the gaps with, like, these little spurts of fire, like, oh, I'm going to do this thing really well, or I need to set up my, make sure that my Instagram has interesting things on it, so it guides people to the place that you want to guide them. Or maybe you're using Facebook or something else social media wise. depending on what your business is.
Right.
I think there's those pockets where you have to be creative problem solvers, and then do the best you can with the time you have
I
to
think
give
I
to it.
think that's what it feeds for me. I don't know what it feeds for you, but I think it's the unknown that I mean, teaching is first of all, teaching is a great gig because you never every class is different, every reaction is different. But you and I have taught long enough that we've been through a lot of things. We kind of know again, this COVID-19 thing probably threw every teacher in the world for a
Yeah,
curveball.
this
But
is new and different. This thing that we're experiencing right
this
now.
is different. But up to this point, it was like I was teaching the same stuff, but how I was doing all that stuff was changing. But kids are kids. They haven't really changed in 30 years, in my opinion. Um, they're very similar to what they were when I started. But this is like, holy cow, you never know that your site's going to crash and you got to scramble to try to figure out how to get it back up. Or, you know, there's tons of different things we can talk about. But I think that for me, that feeds that creativity part of it. Um, that unknown that like, yeah, I,
I'm
I think,
constantly reminding kids that, even the the kids with who think or actually do, maybe it comes into fruition, have the least amount of creativity that take my art classes. Still, I think they are creative. And,
right.
so I think everybody is creative. Everybody is an artist. They might not be a skilled artist, but I think where ideas come from and what people, you know, decide, I really like this, I'm going to fan the flames of that thing. That's creativity, whether you know it or not. I think anything that isn't linear,
Yeah.
and pre-plotted, I think is creativity, or takes some creativity to figure out a solution for it.
I think this has changed it too. You should see Emma. I can't buy canvases fast enough for her.
She's
She's
just
got,
filling it up.
she's like, she's doing all these canvases for, I mean, it's crazy. And
That's awesome.
she's always been kind of a drawer, but she's painting with acrylics. And, you saw like we did I started it with doing those coaster things. And
Yeah,
then, we just kind of like, and it's to be honest with you, it's therapeutic. It's like, she does it downstairs in her area and it's relaxing and it's like, and then Drew's like doing other, so I think yeah, I think there's a lot of people starting side gigs right now because it's therapeutic too. I'm not on the other part, but
I just had a student from 2006 send me an email with a bunch of pictures of art. He's like, I found I found these old drawings that I had done in your class in 2005 at Memorial High School. And I cut them up and I'm repurposing and like putting pieces of these drawings that I made 15 years ago in these new things that I decided I want to start making stuff again. And so he's recycling old art and making new art. And that's kind of what he's doing to get through this weird time in his life. And
that's
so
awesome.
I
And I
think
think the world's
about like,
changed with that. Like Etsy's like, shoot, you can go on there and find, I mean, I won't
well, think,
surprise it, but I found somebody that does jerseys. So I bought and I bought, it's been a couple $100. I bought every one of my seniors like I don't know, 18 by 24 with their jersey painted, and it's so good. I did one for Drew to make sure I liked it. It's awesome. I'm getting one for all my seniors. I'm going to deliver it to their house. But I
that's
mean, I
cool.
found that on like, how do I find something like that? That's crazy that
Yeah.
some woman in Oregon drew it. It's or
I
painted.
think about like all the like wine and painting things where, people go and have this night with their friends, and there might be one artist in the group,
Right.
but they're finding it, a catharsis or this shared time and shared experience. I think you could get really focused on like what the final product of art is, but I think more times than not, it's usually the process. And if you enjoy the process to anything, usually the product makes you happy, but it's the
We've
experience.
been
I
color
think about all these high school kids that think about like they're not going to have a graduation this year.
right.
That's one day, but if they think about the last 12 years or preschool, the last 15 years of their life, that missing the graduation day doesn't define it. It's this kind of journey that they took. And I think that's art making for most people.
President Obama said, I don't even remember my graduation speeches. So you're really not missing much there.
No,
Like they're not. It's the pop and serpents thing. I get that.
yeah. It hurts that you're missing out on things that you want to be a part of. But
I think it's
in the
hurting. I
grand scheme
mean,
of things,
I can tell you in our house, I think it's hurting my wife more than it's hurting him.
yeah, that's the photo op the parents need, or the grandparents, or whoever it is.
It's the yes, I agree. So okay, so you've been at Memorial. So why any other side gigs before with the other one we talked about that I kind of helped you with?
No.
Okay.
No.
And why did you start a side? Well, yeah, there is another side gig other than the one I talked to you about.
Well, so
that's a side gig.
Wait, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the one that you can't do because you can't be in person with people.
Oh, coaching. Yes. So yeah.
But that's not your high school coaching. That's a huge side gig. So
True.
let's talk about that one first, and then we'll go to the one that we kind of set up.
So do we count coaching at our high school a side gig, or is that part
it
of
is
our
a side
teaching
gig?
job?
I consider coaching at the school a side gig because it's not my teaching job.
Sure.
Now, it's not
a lucrative side gig to be a high school coach.
No, but
maybe unless you're in Texas, but
so here's what I'm going to tell you. So we're going to talk about his. I consider my basketball camp in the summer a side gig.
Yeah.
It had to get canceled. We're going online. Like we're going virtual right now. And I've had half the parents say yes. I'm surprised. It's like, I just thought I'd throw it out there and see. So I've been spending the last month getting ready for virtual basketball camp. Crazy.
Yeah. So I have coached volleyball and track.
Right.
During my 20 years, I coached 10 years of volleyball, and I've coached track for 20 years now at Memorial High School. And that is a big part of who I am and what I do. And it's a big part of the relationships that I have with kids. I think you form relationships with kids in the classroom, the relationships you form in a coaching setting where you're with them for 2 hours a day instead of one. And then, for 10 hour track meets, 10 hours with a bus ride there and back some Saturdays, are very different relationships. And so, it's much more rewarding than the paychecks that you get for being a high school coach, but it is a big part of who I am. And I think the benefits, or the residual, the ancillary benefits beyond the paychecks are really amazing. And obviously it's because I love it. If you didn't like coaching, you wouldn't do it, because you wouldn't do it for the pay, that's for sure. Right. But I was lucky enough to have some pretty talented kids pretty early in my coaching career. And we worked, I coached them in the summer after the track season ended. And we just did some extra stuff. Our high school rules allowed us to do that. And so we threw in the summer. I was young and single, and I didn't have other obligations in the summer as a teacher. So we threw all summer, and then one of those kids won a state championship. The other kid was the runner-up the following year after the young woman won the state championship. And because of their success, all of a sudden these other kids from other schools started asking if I would coach them in the summer. And all of a sudden I'm coaching, 10, 12 kids, from all different schools.
So how many did it start out with? Like 2, 10?
So before it had a name, Madison Throws Club is the name of this club that I coach.
Okay.
And it was, that started. And it wasn't even a name. It was just 2 kids from my high school that wanted to throw more that summer. Okay. And so we threw that summer, and they got really good, and they had a ton of success. The second year we did it, I said, hey, we should have a name for this, and Madison Throws Club, and these other kids started asking if I would coach them. And so we started kind of forming this group of kids that also were interested in throwing the shot put and the discus for the summer. And that's what we did. And I would say there were 10 kids there, maybe 12 the first summer. And it just grew kind of on this crazy kind of growth pattern. You're the statistics teacher. What do we call that?
It was linear. So how many? So let's assume the world didn't end this summer. how many were you going to have, or how many do you tend to have, like in your
S-
outside sessions?
Yeah, so for like the last 3 summers, basically, I've sold out, like filled up 2 sessions of 35 kids apiece, basically. So group of 35 come in and then they go, and then another group of 35 come in and then they go. And that's kind of twice a week all summer, or for
And
the
it's
for the
limited
biggest
by the
chunk of
number
summer.
of circles you have. You
Yeah, so
have circles.
space, and then I bring in other coaches to help coach with me so that those 35 kids get a lot of attention. And then I do kind of individual sessions about specific things. So 20 kids might come in to learn about this thing, and I might do a one-off thing like that. And then I've also done satellite camps. So I'm like up in DC Everest, which is near Wausau, Wisconsin, about 2.5 hours away from Madison. And I've done some of those things at other schools. And so I would say in the summer, there's probably around 100 or so, 120, I think was probably the biggest summer of just,
And so that's gone for the summer. This
that will probably not exist in that format this summer. No.
okay.
So that is a pretty big bummer.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Um,
side gig part. So is there, so would the what we talked about, so let's lead into what you and I talked about when we
sure.
started your online thing. Are you trying to move people to your online?
So, in our current circumstances, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Basically, right now, I'm kind of formulating a survey to send out to all my parents who have been in the program in the last 2 years, and try to get some feedback to them. There's a lot of kids who would like to get coached in person still. Obviously, I can't coach 35 kids at a time in person, all in the same place. Um, for two reasons. One, I don't think it's healthy and I don't want to take that risk on.
Right.
And the second thing is our facility at a school will more than likely not be open until July, and then more than likely
So
might
so
not
you
be open
so
in July.
so the obstacle for you is it's not like me where you need a ball and a basket. You
Right.
need someplace that has space in an, I don't know what they call it,
Right.
ring or whatever they call it.
Yep.
What they
That
call
would be a shot put or discus circle. Yes, it's a thing.
it. Does it have a name?
Well, it does. It's a ring. It's a circle. You can
But I
call it
mean,
either
that
one of
doesn't have
those
like a
things.
specific name. Like
You need a shot put circle with a toe board or a stop board.
okay, toe board.
And a
Okay.
discus circle does not have a toe board. It's slightly bigger than a shot put circle, but you would need one of those. And
Oh,
more important than the circles, because you could get away without a circle. You need concrete that you could throw a heavy object into grass or something where you're not going to break anything or people. So the idea of like,
that's a
hey,
harder thing than you that because I always thought, why don't they just go to the park? You can't because it's grass to grass.
yeah, so I mean, you would have to throw off a sidewalk, like a walking path. You could do it like off a basketball court, off the side of a basketball
Oh, that's
court at
true.
a
Okay.
park into a grass landing area. But you would need a significant amount of space out there without, other people throwing frisbees around or kids
Right.
walking through. There's some safety issues. I have insurance.
Right.
I got to
No,
check
but
with
I'm
my
just saying
insurance
for a kid
people
that
and
wants
see
to do
like,
it on their own,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah.
hard thing. That's what I'm talking about. It's like,
Yeah, yeah. There's not a shot put circle at every park. There's a basketball
right,
hoop at most parks. So yeah,
right.
there are some limitations. And while everyone has a basketball, a discus costs you anywhere from $50 to $500. So it's not everybody has a discus. That usually that's kind of um, you know, a lot of my kids who are kind of devoted year-round track and field athletes, and that's what they think about. They have their own shot put, and they have a couple of their own discs. But usually, they're just accessing these things through their high school or
Right.
through when they come to me. I have plenty of implements that they can borrow and use for the day
So
at
I
one
have
of
a
my
question.
sessions.
Do they have favorite ones? Like,
Oh yeah,
do like if something happened to like Riette's favorite disc or favorite shot put, would that be a problem? I mean, does she have like,
that would be a problem. Yes.
and
So
is it her? Does she have one that she keeps, or does she have one at school that she always uses? And would that be something she'd want to use at state tournament? I mean,
yes.
is it like a huge deal?
So the bigger deal probably is the discus. If we're going to talk about something that no one really needs to know unless you're really interested in track and field, but here we go. You ready?
Yeah, I love this stuff. I don't care. Yeah.
Okay. So um, we're going to talk a little bit about flight dynamics here. You ready for this?
Okay. Yes.
Discs fly. So you've got basically a flattish circle that round. Think of a frisbee that is bulbous on both top and bottom, if I may use the word
Yes.
bulbous.
Okay.
And that discus is a specific weight. Like a boy throws a 1.6 kilogram discus and a girl throws a 1 kilogram discus.
Okay.
It has to be that way. It has to be a certain diameter. However, depending on how you buy that discus, you could buy it with the weight distributed differently. So if the weight is in the center of the
Ah,
discus, it's very easy to make something spin. So it has a, a moment of inertia, if we want to get into physics for a
right.
second. And basically, if the weight's in the center, you can get it to spin very easily. But also, as the momentum of that discus spinning slows down, um, it'll slow down much faster. And as it slows down, it'll start wobbling and then it wants to come out of the sky. A discus is
Okay.
basically like a wing of an
Right.
airplane.
Okay. Yep.
Air goes underneath the discus and it
Yep.
creates lift and then it keeps going.
Okay.
Now, a heavier rim discus, a more expensive discus, has the weight distributed on the outside of the discus. It's a lot harder to start it to spinning, so advanced throwers would want a heavier or rim-weighted discus because, yes, it's harder to get it to start to spin, but once it starts spinning, it wants to stay spinning.
Okay.
And
And then it's
so
gonna
the
move.
flight dynamics of it continuing to spin and fly flat,
Okay.
it will stay in the air longer. So if you gave an advanced thrower a really bad discus, or you took the really nice discus away from them, they might kill you.
Okay.
Shot put is a little bit different
But
because
how do they check that at the state tournament? They measure it and weigh
they
it.
measure the size, they measure the thickness of the discus at the center point, and they measure the thickness of the rim.
Okay.
Um, but at the state meet, they don't care where the weight is. It just has to weigh the exact weight. The
Okay.
thrower cares where the weight is because if I'm a pretty good discus thrower who throws pretty far and I try to throw a discus that has an extreme amount of rim weight and I've never thrown it before, I might not get it to fly properly. And I actually throw it shorter than I would a discus with less rim weight.
Okay. Okay.
So, you get used to what you're doing. And then if you are a good thrower, or a program that has a bunch of throwers, you would kind of incrementally try to use a better discus or more challenging discus because
To
it's
the
going to
point
actually,
where yes. Okay.
yeah, it's going to give you
Okay.
more benefit.
And
The
the
shot
shot
put,
is the shot isn't as big a deal. Like I could borrow your shot put and it
you
wouldn't.
could probably borrow a shot and get away with it because it's going to fly the same. There is a little bit of difference in how big the shot put is. They all have to weigh the same. Every girl's shot has to weigh the same. Every boy's shot has to weigh the same. But there's a small difference in terms of how big the actual diameter of the shot put
Okay.
is.
Okay.
But it's pretty subtle. Anyway,
Okay.
wow, that was a side
That's okay.
tangent.
I don't care. That's a side gig right there. Whoop. All right. Anyway, so going back to your business thing. So you were gonna so there's really no way to transform that to online.
So I'll rewind a little bit. It
Okay.
was about 3 years ago. Steve has a very successful side gig, and I was getting to a point. I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, so my kids are younger than Steve's,
Right.
and I have more and more kids. I'm turning kids away from Madison Throws Club because I can't put any more kids in the space. I could add another session, but that means I'm going to be out of my house for another 2 hours,
Right. And
multiple
you
days
have
of the week.
like one of the better throw things in the state of Wisconsin,
I have
probably
a really nice facility. I mean,
for
I
a high
have
school. Yeah.
fantastic space.
Yeah.
And so, it basically came down to my wife and I having the discussion of, I can't, she is like, I totally get that you love doing this and you love your kids and the kids love doing this. And so you got to do it, but you can't add more time to how much you're away from the kids in the summer. It's our family time too.
Right.
And so trying to balance that out is really hard. So Steve encouraged me, like, you should start a website. And so the idea was, if I started this online website, I could coach kids or do video analysis, and they could send me a video, and I could send them back and give them feedback on what they're doing after my kids go to bed. It
Right.
doesn't, there's no time. It's not synchronous. I don't have to be away from the house to do it. I could do it whenever it's convenient, which is a great model for a teacher who's looking for a side gig. If you can figure out, some sort of virtual model. And now here we are,
I know.
and
Well, there's
everyone
two
wants to
things.
be
You want to make
virtual.
money while you're sleeping, and you want something that's virtual if you can. That's why I'm trying
Yes.
to dive deep. We're basically two friends just talking at this point because I'm trying to dive deeper for him to help, and you're just all
Yeah.
listening at this point.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. So you're saying that video analysis where they throw the disc or the thing,
Yep.
that they want more than that right now?
So, when I started the website, it slowly kind of started building. And some of those people are throws club members who I see in person, and they
Right.
want more, right? They
Okay.
want constant contact. They live 3 hours away. They're going to come to all my summer sessions. But hey, it's the middle of the week and we don't have a summer session. Can I send you this video? Give me feedback. I want to know what I'm doing wrong or what I can do better, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of resources on the website that kids can look at whenever they want to. And
Do you feel like you can help them online like that? You can see the
tricky, and
footwork and
there's an interesting debate in the subculture of online coaching right now of, you know, yes, obviously is better than nothing and kids just trying to figure it out on their own. But, are there things that, online coaches are missing, or do we have to dumb it down or simplify it or streamline it or create a systems approach to coaching because you're trying to juggle too many kids, because you have to make it semi cookie cutter, otherwise you would need this to be your full-time job and not your side gig.
right.
And so that's a real dilemma because there are some other coaches around the country who do this, do something like this, and most of them are doing it as a full-time job. They're not teachers and online track coaches. They're
Right.
just online track coaches, and so they have a lot more attention maybe to detail. Now, the one thing I will say is this: is the kids that I actually get to coach in person.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying the podcast, which I hope you are, we would ask that you go over and subscribe and like. Stop for 3 seconds, stop that treadmill, stop the car, pull over, leave us a 5-star. We are new to this, so we would love those reviews. I will read every one of them, probably respond to you. We would love that. We'd love your input. And then also go over and check out our website, teachersidegig.com. There you can join our Facebook group. There you can contact me. Maybe you want to be on the podcast and have an interesting story to share and tell with our community. So if you do, come on over, fill out the form. I can't guarantee anything, but we'll see what we can do. All right, let's head back to the podcast.
From time to time, it's much easier to coach them online because I've
'Cause you
seen them in
know,
person, and
yes.
we have a common language that we've established in person, and the nuance and the relationship where I can send them some piece of feedback back and they actually know what I'm talking about.
Right, and you've also seen them like throw. Like if let's say like I'll pick Kyle from my basketball team. If Kyle sent me something
Yeah.
this summer and it was a shooting thing, I kind of know him. I've seen him shoot since he was fifth grade. Like I could, but if some kid from Wyoming sent it, it would be I'd have to spend a little bit more time on it. Like I see that. Yeah.
I would say this: it's if you never saw a kid shoot a basketball and they sent you one single video
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, will you correct my basketball shot?" And you have to think, well, did this one go in?
Right.
Did this not go in? Did the other 150 shots you took from the free throw line that morning look the same? Or is this the bad one they're sending me? Is this the good one they're sending me?
So here's the question is how do they send the tape and do you have multiple angles when you look at it? Because that's what I would want if I was breaking someone's basketball shot down, is I'd want multiple angles of the shot, front, side, behind.
Yeah.
Do you get
So
that?
so there's a couple different views that throws coaches like, a
Okay.
side view or the back view, and side depends on whether they're right-handed or left-handed. And so some of my kids will send me both views,
Okay.
and that makes my job easier.
Okay.
And then a lot of times they'll send me one view and I'll give them some feedback, and I say, hey, next time you send me a video, take it from that other angle, and I can just make sure that I'm not missing something, or I can fill in the blanks of what I think I'm seeing from this one particular angle.
Okay. Okay. But the kids don't want, so let's go back to you not being able to do your camp and your summer side
Yeah.
gig. Are you, so, and you said you were brainstorming trying to move them back onto virtual or
Yeah.
something,
So the
trying to
question
figure out what to
is,
do.
I have plenty of online members who are not in Madison Throws Club. I mean, I coach people, adults, master throwers from all over the world, all over the country, who I've
Right.
never seen in person. And so do I move the summer kids and offer them kind of this online version that is separate from what my normal membership is, or create like a specific like summer membership and just say, hey, here's a membership for June and July, and we're going to do this virtually. You need to get out here and blah, 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 do these things, do those things. And so I'm trying to figure that out right now based on feedback. I have some people who want to still get together and do one-on-one coaching. One-on-one coaching is something I'll do for kids who have been around for years and years and
But
years,
it's
are
not,
really devoted to it.
you don't want time for money. That's what I always tell people. You don't want time
No,
for money. So could you do a virtual, are you thinking of doing this live? Or are
it
you
would probably
taking one of those
be,
people?
so there's so many. So here's the thing about my little track and field niche is that there are tons of people who all of a sudden are now offering things that I used to be one of 4 or 5 people in the country who offered.
Okay.
And I think some of it is just because people are stuck in their house in their home office and have the time to set those things up.
And those will go away. I'm telling you right now, it's like podcasting. You should see the basketball podcasts that have gone up.
The
I've
number
done
of podcasts in track and field has exponentially rose over the last
right, and
9
it's like
weeks.
good for you. I've done 700 podcasts on basketball, five a week. If you can catch up to me and do that many, God bless you. You have no idea because you're home right now for all the time. You know,
So I also have a podcast,
yeah.
and Steve knows this, but so
And I'm
I'm
always
50.
pimping him to put your podcast out, and it's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard to
yeah.
do it.
So I've done, I'm just about to finish quote unquote season 2. And my mission is not as ambitious as Steve's, but 26 episodes
Right.
a season, which to me, I was thinking, 26 episodes. I'll do those, kind of every other week, and maybe a few more leading up to the season, and then a little less sporadic in our off season, quote
Right.
unquote, but I'll get 26 in a year. I'm going to get to 26 next month, week from Monday, and it's May.
Right.
So, just because I've had extra time to do it, but yeah, so
So we got
that's
off
the
task.
thing.
So we got off task. People are doing this stuff and going virtually, is what you're saying. Are they trying to
Yeah,
run camps? Is that what they're trying to do?
no, they're running things online. So they're running, synchronous, like, hey, for $100, I'm going to do a, 2-hour webinar on blah, blah, blah. And, I'll send you pay through this website, and then
Okay.
I'll send you the link to this, synchronous webinar, and you can
And
ask
synchronous means
questions.
you mean live, like actually
Yeah, I
going
mean,
on.
live, actual, like you could ask a question and they
Okay.
answer the question
And are
during
you
the
thinking
session.
of that? Because you don't really have that.
So I could do those things. I think the competitive nature of the world is, I'm a high school coach who has had, I'm lucky to say that I've had a fair amount of success with the throwers that I coach. But there are also like professional athletes doing it, and there are Olympians doing,
Right.
webinars. They're filling in the blanks. They're trying to make some income because I will say this for you guys who don't know anything about track, like the 8 people you see, like the side story when you watch the Olympics every 4 years, which will
Right.
now be every 5 years because it's been
Right.
postponed. Those 8 people are doing just fine financially. The other like 80 members of the USA track and field team are like working at Home Depot, blood
Right.
and, like bleeding their fingers out. And then as soon as they're done with their shift, they're going and training for 6 hours. And, that's their
Right.
life for 4 years to try to, there's no money in track and field. So,
No.
you know, if you're pretty good at track and you can go to Europe in the summer and and you place at a meet, you could make $1,000, or $2,000
Right.
or $4,000 at a meet in England, but you got to fly to England.
Right.
And so, the 3 months you could actually make a little bit of money here or there to pay for the rest of your year doesn't exist. So all these pros are doing track and field things and trying to make money
Make money. And I don't blame
through
them.
their
Good
thing.
for them.
I
Yeah.
I don't blame them at all either. And so,
Right.
and here's the tricky part: as a side gig, going back to what we're really talking about here, is my side gig grew from something that I'm super passionate about, and the fact that I make any money at all from it is like this amazing, like, holy
Right.
cow, this is so cool that I'm actually making some money coaching more track because I really enjoy it.
Right.
And so there are other people where this is their, like, not side gig, it's their main gig, and they're making no money. And
Right.
so I absolutely applaud them for doing it. My heart of hearts says, where do I want to fit into the niche? Because my greatest satisfaction is being in person and working with young people, as it is, I think, for most teachers.
Right.
And the
Oh, I agree.
extension of that is we get to do that as a basketball coach in the summer at summer camps,
Yep.
or I get to do that at Madison Throws Club. And then to scratch that itch a little further, I was doing this online thing because I couldn't spend any more hours doing what I was doing.
Right.
The hard part, and I think most teachers would probably say the same thing about virtual teaching, is you've taken all the fun parts out of the
Yeah.
teaching.
You have. You
I'm
really
left
have.
I'm left with curriculum planning and
Grading. Yeah.
emailing
Right.
and grading, and there's no interactions, and what
Like
happened to
one of
you
my
this
one
weekend.
of the
And
greatest parts of my day is lunch. And they go, "What do you mean?" It's because I open my classroom up, the kids come in, they're relaxed, we'll do a little math, we'll joke with each other, we'll have fun. That's what I look forward to that every day. And it's like, that's not my teaching my math class even. That's like just helping them with math. So
I'm not throwing any teacher under the bus who, like, locks it down like Fort Knox and takes the 30 minutes, because I know some teachers need that 30
yes,
minutes of, like,
yes,
head space
yes.
to, like, recalibrate for the afternoon. But Steve and I both, my room is full of our kids every day, and I eat my lunch in my room. And
And I need
Steve's,
that, but I need that energy. That energy gives me
yeah,
for the day.
those kind
I
of
agree.
extra connections. It's why we
Yeah.
coach. I think it's the extra beyond,
So have you
in
thought coaches?
between. Say it again.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Have you thought coaches, like trying to help coaches coach other kids during this COVID thing? Because I know your site's unique. Your site is I just like Teach Hoops just is teaching coaches how to coach, teach hoops.
Yep.
You are a dual processor.
Yeah, half of my online members are coaches and half of them are athletes.
Right.
So I'm helping coaches coach their kids, and then I'm also helping athletes get better for themselves.
So is there a solution to the summer is basically what I'm getting to. Is it help coaches maybe more, or spend your time on the coaching aspect of it, or probably
I
not because there's not as many coaches, or
No, and I think, I mean, one of the niches that I fill, I think, in with Madison Throws Club, from anyone out there who's a coach, a lot of summer is filled by kids getting ready for their fall sport. So they're football players or volleyball players. I know, and that's not always true. I think, there's plenty of baseball things and basketball
yeah,
things in the summer as well. Where a lot of kids who just finished their spring sport don't then continue working on their spring sport in the summer. They start thinking about their next sport.
oh,
And
that's
so I
true. I
think a
never
lot
thought of that.
about, like, a lot of shot put and discus coaches happen to be football coaches, because a lot of the boys who coach the throws, those boys are football players. So there's just a
Yep.
lot of carryover. So a lot of throws coaches don't really coach much at all in the summer. They're football coaches. They're at
Right.
football camps, and they're in the
Yeah.
weight room, and they're thinking about that part of their world and their connections with kids. So, the bulk of my club actually happens to be girls, which is interesting because a lot more boys play football in the summer, go to camps. And it's hard for them to make a commitment to track and field in the summer.
Right.
So anyway, I would say that if I'm going to do anything with online, it would probably be aimed at kids. Um, and try to fill the gap of that summer training that usually happens, rather than trying to embellish the website from a helping coaches standpoint, which I think I could go back into in the fall and winter in preparation for next
You'll
spring.
probably have time in the fall and the winter. Hate to be the naysayer, but you'll probably have time. Uh,
I would say this to refute you, and any teacher who's listening to this right now knows that virtual teaching with kids that are 4 and 6 in your house, I have never been more exhausted in my entire life than I have in the last
I can't
9 weeks.
imagine. I can't imagine.
I bumped in.
A little
We took
Bailey's in the coffee helps in the morning. Little
we
Bailey's in
took the
coffee.
kids for a walk today at Owen Park near our school. We saw 2 owls. We saw about 1,000 frogs. It was a great nature hike. Okay, and we bumped into another teacher who is a teacher from your department today.
Okay.
And she said, just trying to fill the time to be today.
Right.
And I looked at her and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Her kids already have graduated from high school. I remember that. Yep.
Yes.
Because I am exhausted. So I don't know that if we're back at virtual teaching in the fall, I have any more time than I have right now.
That's true. You're probably more gassed.
But yeah, so teachers who have young children, I feel you. I understand you.
I know. What's your solution for this then? Is there a solution?
Well, here's the hard part. As I'm formulating this letter or this survey that I want to send out to these parents that have had kids involved in the program before, I'm asking hypothetical questions, which is a bad way to approach it. So
it is from a sales standpoint.
From a sales point, it's like, if we're able to get together in July, right, would you feel comfortable getting together in July? If I have a facility to use, would you like to throw at a park off a basketball court? I'm asking these hypothetical questions because I don't know. And that's probably the most frustrating thing, is we don't know what's going to happen. And so one way to look at it is,
I think you send it out and say, we're going to do this. Are you in? And then you'll get a truer response, I think, from them, that we're gonna find a place to do this. It might be in a park off a court. There might only be 5 of you at a time, but I'm gonna make this work. If I do, are you in?
Yes, and that's probably
otherwise you're gonna get the I don't know. It's like,
well, that's right. If you ask a hypothetical question because we don't know what's going to happen in July because of COVID-19, you're going to get hypothetical answers because they don't know what's going to happen in July because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
So I haven't sent that survey out on purpose because I think
you got to narrow it. I really think you got to just say, and then if they say yes, we want it, and then you can't do it, then you come back to them.
Yeah.
I think I think you got to tackle it like, I'm going to really try. I miss everybody. I do. I wish I could run my basketball camp. I just know I'm not going to be able to get inside in a school this summer. I just know that's probably not going to happen in Wisconsin. Yeah. So, but you could be outside. Everything I've read outside is a lot safer.
Right.
It's a lot safer. You have more issues of like how you're going to clean the actual disc and all that.
Right.
Everybody has to clean their own or whatever.
I would love that to be my only problem this summer. It's like,
I would say,
I think clean the shot puts.
I think you pick a week and say, hey, I think I'm going to do it this week. If I did, are you in?
Yep.
Or these 2 weeks. Personally, I think it'd be good for you. I think it'd be good for your family to get out of the house. I mean, seriously, I go for walks twice a day. Just get out of the house.
My wife won't be listening to this, but yes, it would be good for me to get out of the house. She knows.
Trust me. You're going to look back on these.
No. My wife is so supportive of this. And I think every teacher who has a spouse that's not a teacher gets it.
Right.
I think every coach who has a spouse, they get it. They might not always love how much we're away from
your
the
wife
house.
Should be on America's Funniest Videos or whatever that is. You should submit that video.
Steve is now referring to a video where she kicked a large aerobic ball towards my 4-year-old son and hit him in the head and just absolutely he was defending the goal. He's playing goalie. and the ball just absolutely clobbers him and knocks him like flat as a pancake onto his back. And the best part of the video for me was the fact that my 6-year-old daughter was recording it and just couldn't stop laughing and kept asking, "Mom, do it again! Mom, do it again!" Because she thought it was so funny.
Right. Well,
And
the reaction.
and the funny thing is that my son popped up laughing because he thought it was hilarious. If he had been down crying, it would have
Right.
been funny.
And your wife's like, "Oh my God." And it was
yeah,
it was great. It was literally, it was precious. It was one of those videos. I have a picture of Drew catching when he was in Little League with his eyes closed. And the ball is like literally 6 inches from it's one of those things that to the day I die, it makes me laugh. Because he literally has his eyes closed and the glove is open and the ball's coming toward it.
Hoping it goes in.
It's like this video, you'll show it at her wedding. Yeah, I mean that will be, oh my God, that'll be so funny. But anyway, so that's what I'm saying. I think you should pick a week and just go for it. Like,
I think we're getting to that point. It's like, how long can you wait to make a decision that impacts other people? And I think,
right,
as we didn't really get into the nuts and bolts of a side gig because mostly everyone who's listening, I'm hoping you have a side gig different from Steve and I's because we're crazy.
Yeah.
If your side gig is like Steve and I's, call us. We could help you.
We'll help.
One of the most painstaking decisions for me is like, oh my gosh, it's supposed to rain on Wednesday this week, and I have kids driving from Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, 4 or 5 hours to come to a 1.5 hour throwing session because that's what parents will do for kids, and kids are really over the top about getting better at sports right now.
Right.
When do I decide to cancel? Rain usually doesn't cancel track. Lightning cancels everything pretty much.
So what do you do in the summer? You go inside? You don't go inside because
we don't have access to inside. So, basically I'm trying to decide, hey, am I going to cancel for 70 people? And that's hard. How long do you wait to make those decisions as a quote on business owner, as a kind of as a risk management person? Those are hard things. And so this is like the kind of over the top version of this. How long do you wait to make a decision that obviously impacts people's schedules and things like that? And especially when you're waiting to find out.
Do you have a place in your head that you think you could go?
Well, and now Steve and I are just having a conversation again. I don't know if anyone is interested in any of this, but it's like, okay, let's say I had 5 kids at a time, just from a risk kind of management.
Okay.
So I could keep people far away from each other. Is it weird to have like a neighborhood park that has like a playground that may or may not be open? Like, no playgrounds. Like most of the playgrounds in our neighborhood, in our community, have like caution tape around them and signs that say don't touch anything. So there's a basketball court next to that thing in my neighborhood community. Would it be odd if 6 cars rolled into this neighborhood and we're just like dominating 200 feet of grass and the basketball court with shot put and discus kids from not our neighborhood? And
no, I don't think so. I think
is there a moral gray area to run a business on a public park with no permit that really there would be no permit to get? It's like, you want to do what? Where? I don't understand what you're asking.
When you would do it would be the key. If you did it at 5 o'clock at night when mom and dad come home and want to take their kid to the playground, it's a little different. But if you do it at 10 o'clock in the morning,
no one will be there.
It's
true.
like
true.
I don't think they want you to rip up their field either, but half of the fields in our neighborhood are all dandelions at this point anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we can kill a few of the dandelions with some shot puts, I think everyone would benefit.
So that's your plan then? That's your action plan?
That is my current. If I don't have access and we need to limit numbers, which I feel that would be the only risk I'd be willing to take, is very small groups. There's no scenario where I think we get into a facility and I can have roughly,
No, I think there's
30
I think there's
kids.
an outside chance in July you could
There's a
be.
small percentage of that in July, right? And
You
usually
could
my
be.
throws club starts in June. And so we would delay the start till July, or maybe just squeeze everything in July and not do as many sessions or something like that. And
I
just,
think you say we're gonna get in July, and we're gonna, because that my guess is maybe they'll say groups of 10. Society's got to open, so, and it's outside. It's not in a contained. The
yeah,
bad things happen when they're contained. So I don't know. I think there's still an outside chance with you that you, but it would still have to be a relatively small group, like 10 kids
right,
or 10 total people, like maybe
right.
5 kids or 8 kids and 2 adults. But you could space out in your facility easy if you did that. Pretty
Yeah,
easy.
if it was at our facility at our high school and we have access to it, we could space things out pretty easily. And I think, I would have to come up with some protocol that I would feel comfortable with from a risk management standpoint
Right. If
about,
you're not here, you're back here, kind
yep,
of.
if
Yeah.
you're not, and usually like in our world, it's like basketball. Someone else is rebounding for you and they throw the ball out to you. Well, we're not going to be able to do that for a while. You're going to have to go and rebound your own ball, and that's going to be your ball if you're doing shooting.
Right.
If
Right.
everyone touches every single ball at a shoot
Right.
around and there's no contact on defense and offense or anything like that,
Right.
free throw think about
Yes.
shot put discus training as free
Free
throw
throws.
practice with a coach standing next to you and saying you did part of
Yes.
that 30
Things. Right. Yeah.
physiological sequence wrong. You did part 5 wrong. It's a little more complex than that,
Right.
but
No, but I get it.
and so there's no shirts and skins and there's no defense in track and field, so that's a bonus. So it makes it a little bit easier. But
I think your pivot is I'm planning on doing this in July. It's going to be a limited number of kids. There will be a waiting list if you can't get in, but I also have this for you.
yeah,
Like,
a
because
backup, a virtual backup.
because not everyone's, and you're going to be honest in your letter. There's 80 kids. There's no way all 80 are going to be able to come, or
That's a
70 or
fact.
whatever it is.
True.
So if you're up for the the virtual one, here it is. I'm still willing to help. You can still send me videos. I will. Maybe you can get it at your high school and you don't have to drive 6 hours or whatever.
Absolutely. Yep.
But I think that's what I mean. And you'll have to be honest. Like, there's going to be a pecking order for this. Like, if you're a freshman, you don't get in. I mean, I don't know how you word it, but it's like there's got to be a hierarchy for the kids. If you can do it in person, you get to keep.
Yeah. Well,
The kids
and
that have always come.
between me and you and all the listeners of Teacher Side Gig,
Yeah.
there's other ways to mitigate like that.
Yeah.
Like that gatekeeping.
Right.
Typically, just because I know that things sell out, if I have a kid who's been part of the program for 3
everything,
years,
yes,
they get an email a day before maybe the kids who only come to one thing. And
right.
all those people get an email before I post it on social media for
Right.
new people who have never
Yes.
come to anything.
Yes.
And maybe they're,
It's the kid that
filling in the
hasn't
last
missed
few
one
spots.
of your events in 4 years.
You
They're
would
getting a
hate for them
special
to
email.
get, you would hate for them to get boxed out of continuing
Yes.
to train,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think that's a good pivot for you for July.
No, and that is a lot of the things that I kind of have on paper, and you and I both, although my little notebook, my little red notebook isn't here, but here's my other, it's like it pops into my head, it goes on paper because I can't. I have too many balls in the air to keep
I'll go
track.
look, there's what I have on one side.
Oh yeah.
There's what I have on the other side.
Okay, so now what's
and then
calendar? Is that a calendar?
On here is like post-it after post-it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a post-it person usually. I'm just like quarter sheets of printing paper that I've cut.
For anybody that's
into.
listening, I basically have 2 big whiteboards in hand's reach where I can write stuff.
Okay, tell me what's on the whiteboard to your left. What is on that board?
This one?
Yep.
That's things to do.
Okay.
So I have categories. One's teach hoops, one's school, one's home, one's podcasts. So you see the rankings, and it's everything I got to do. So I'm
Cool.
busy. I'm actually, my wife
Yeah.
goes, what are you doing? You're not even like, I said, I'm busier than I normally am. And this is my calendar.
I thought that was a calendar. Yep.
Yeah. So that's my calendar. So that's where I got to keep, like, I got to go into school
I
next
have an
week.
important question for you,
And
Steve Collins.
yes. And those are, I bought all this on Amazon. And those are like for artwork. I think there's like,
It's nice work. The
yeah,
easels. Yeah.
easels. Yeah. Looking for the word.
I have an important question for you.
Yeah.
And this is like a hot button topic in
Okay.
the art teacher world.
Okay.
Do you keep a Google Calendar digitally, or do you still write it down in like paper, or do you do both?
I do. The normal day, like if life's normal, it's
Yes.
Google Calendar.
Okay.
Because everybody in the family has a different color. My wife kind of organizes. I throw stuff onto it. This is because world's chaos now,
Yeah.
and I don't know what day of the week it is.
Yeah. I keep both.
Okay.
But I've had a really hard time transitioning to putting everything on a Google Calendar because I like to look at it on paper.
I know, but it's
I
so
like
nice.
I
Like,
like my paper, but my wife and my colleagues have kind of forced my hand on the Google
no,
Calendar.
so here's the issue. When your kids, so you're 6 and 4, when they get to be 8 and 12,
When I become a chauffeur, you mean?
and that they're going to be doing 73 different events. If you don't have it, like, you won't have enough room in that little box. That's why Maya got rid of it eventually. She was a paper person when we
Yeah.
met, and the boxes started filling up because the kids had so many things. And I said, Maya, let's just go. And she's totally Google now. I mean, she's been 15 years, but yeah, this is just because literally, okay, what is today's date? We're filming, we're doing this.
Today's the 16th of May.
16th of
I don't
May.
know when this is going to be out there, but
I have no idea either. But I mean, just saying, that's what's crazy. I look, so I just know what day of the week.
that's important.
It is funny how the world changed so much in 2 months.
Quickly.
Like, it was crazy. And I predicted it I told everyone in my classes, take their computer home. I said, you're not coming back. Blah, blah, blah. They were all looking at me like, what are you talking about? I go, I'm telling you.
Steve and I were on the same page on this unfolding, and I had some naysayers in my teaching department, and I was just like, when we left school on Friday,
The 13th.
On Friday the 13th, no coincidence, I don't know.
March 13th.
The district plan was that we wouldn't be coming back or we would still be back the next week, but we would all be leaving early for spring break.
Yep.
And I was telling everyone there is a 0% chance that we're at school on Monday. And so Steve and I were on the same. Steve and I stop at each other's classrooms very often during the school day.
Right.
And we are so on the same page on that.
I mean, it was like, I thought there was maybe a chance, but I thought we might come back. I
thought we would be gone for like 3 weeks and then we would be back. Like, I mean, that was like my naive wishful thinking, and mostly because my track season had just started and there was no way I was going to like give up on wanting that to still happen.
I know.
But obviously every day of this, you start seeing.
I think from a business standpoint too, to just go on to the teacher side gig, I think like I gotta have things like, if I don't organize my day, it's like, oh shoot, have I done my emails? Have I done my social media? Have I done this? Oh crud, I gotta go grade papers. You got to keep all that straight, and that's 100%. Where your paper thing I think helps you.
Yeah. And some of it is just like old habits die hard, you know. So you're really organized in a certain way, and then you change how you're organized. There's going to be a period where you're not organized yet because you're not used to the new system.
Oh, my office is unbelievably messy. It drives my wife, because I literally brought every piece of paper I thought I might need for the next year home. I swear to God, I was emptying filing cabinets because I go, I might need it, and I might not be able to get back in here.
See, he's not all Google people. He still has file cabinets with actual paper.
Oh, I do, and tests and quizzes. And all right, so what would be your parting word to somebody starting a side gig?
I think this, and especially I think maybe you didn't tell me this question beforehand, but the first thing I thought in my head was, especially in our current times, teaching is so demanding of our focus and our energy and our kind of our life marrow, that if you are going to do a side gig, do it because it's something that brings you happiness and joy and is a area of passion that you won't burn out on.
Right.
And if you can make some money doing that, fantastic. If there's not a lot of money on it and it's harder than it is worth, just be a great teacher.
Right.
It just isn't worth
No,
the
and the thing
headache.
is, it's like I don't consider when Maya goes, well, why you? I go, I don't consider this work. Like this is fun. Like when I
Yeah.
do the podcast, you and I talking today, we've been on an hour. This has been fun. I've enjoyed this. It's not, if I didn't enjoy this, I wouldn't do it. Like 700 episodes of Coach Unplugged, I obviously enjoy talking to people. So it's like you got to find that in if you do, then you'll I will tell you, if you do, it won't be work and you'll make money. You will make money
Yeah,
because
yeah.
people will find your passion.
And I think the other thing, I guess, that I would say, which is a spin-off of that, if you're doing it in hopes to make money, give it the time to let it happen. I
Right.
got some very good advice from a teacher friend of mine, our former department chair who retired last year. His name is Jeff Herman. Steve knows him well.
Yep. Great
An
teacher.
incredibly
Who
gifted
loves them?
teacher.
Oh yeah.
And he is retired, and he's probably going to end up teaching kind of part-time at the college level, and is very worthy. Those students will all benefit from him. But anytime we thought about doing something new in the art department, we're going to do a new show in the gallery, or we're going to pilot a new program, or should we start this a new class, a new project? He said to me, "Whatever we're going to do, let's start small. Let's do it as well as we possibly can, and we'll grow organically, like the way it's supposed to grow, because we put all that passion into it. Don't expect to, start a side gig and quit your job in 1 year. Like, give it time, give it the appropriate amount of attention. And you got to think it's like those little seedlings you're planting out in your garden right now.
Yep.
You got to kind of give it some TLC and let it grow. And
You've seen it in your video. You've seen it in your video course. I've seen it in my stats course. It started, I mean, I had a bag to start a stats class 18 years ago, and now I got 4 sections because kids enjoy it. They it's pertinent, obviously, with what's going on now. Same thing with your video class. And your photography. I mean, if there's a I think people expect. We live in a society where we expect instant gratification. It's not going to happen, especially in a business, unless, I don't know. Look at Amazon. He started selling books, and now he's like God. Like, he's literally trying to solve this problem. Have you heard what he's doing, Bezos?
It's amazing.
$4 billion he's sticking into it. You're gonna be able to go to Amazon and get your own COVID-19 test. That's what's gonna happen. He's gonna test everybody. And it's crazy.
And we'll need that.
Probably. I know. But I mean, he started selling books.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I remember the first time someone told me you could order that on Amazon. I was like, it's not a book. Like, I corrected them. So that it dates me a little bit. But you remember when he just had barely started selling other stuff on Amazon. I was just like, oh no, that's like a book thing, right?
It's a book thing. That's all you can do is buy books. All right. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you being on.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Thanks.